You can also, if it's something that you can't have at your house, a lot of stores, hydroponic stores, will sell RO water if you just want to pick some up. For me, I just need a few gallons. I don't need too much. We're going to let this expand. I'm going to fill this up with some water and obviously work the cocoa a little bit because I need more cocoa than this. I need to fill up that tray so I can put a bunch of seeds in there. But this is what the media looks like. I'm working with the cocoa right here. And then these are the plugs, which are already expanding. I need to add some more water into it. Typically, this is done outside, I would say, because it can be a little bit messy. But with condo living, sometimes you just gotta work with what you got. So I'm doing this in my kitchen, trying to keep it as clean as possible. Luckily, I'm close to the sink, so I will wash all of this off pretty soon. So once this is all rehydrated, we're going to put these into trays, and then we'll start planting. Okay, so here I have the little plugs, or the little hockey pucks, what people call. This is what they start out as, this little tiny size. And I put them in water for a little over a minute, and this is what they pop up to, so then they rehydrate. I just did 6 of these. I wanted to have a few extra ones, but I have 4 water farms that are going to be filled up, and I wanted to do some peppers in them. And so I will be planting some candlelight ornamental peppers from Territorial Seed Company. These do say ornamentals, but when they are grown at home, especially with organic nutrients or nutrients that you know what you're putting on your plants, they are edible. A lot of these plants, they're little tiny peppers, they're very pretty. They're used as table decorations. And when you start seeing them as table decorations, that means it's ornamental, and you do not know typically what they have sprayed onto those, and they typically are not edible. But when you grow them from home and you're buying them from Territorial Seed Company, edible, sweet, cute little peppers, so the candlelight peppers. So I did grab a few extra just because they are very little tiny seeds, but usually I will poke a little hole down the middle of these guys to drop the seed in and then cover them up a little bit with the cocoa. And there are other containers that are out there. I'm using Tupperware right now because I moved, but it works. And I might put a dome cover that I do have for some of these larger trays to cover it up in the beginning. So some of these will have 1 or 2 seeds. It just depends on how many I'm grabbing. Oops. Alright, so cover these up just a little bit. These can dry out, and obviously when they dry out, they get very dry. So, you do not want to let the cocoa dry out. I will need to check these probably every day for a while, and these might take a little bit longer to germinate. Some of the peppers do take longer to germinate, which can be common. But these are going to be put into the grow tent. They'll have a little dome on them. They will be uncovered every day or so, and I will just wait for germination now, and do not let it dry out. So this is what the little cocoa plugs look like. There are ones, I think they have peat ones, they have some other media ones out there, and there's lots of different brands. If you're growing in small scale, they work great. You can just pop them up, they're easy to do, but when you start growing large scale, it is not fun to do like 200 of them. So that's typically when you're going to move into some of these larger ones, like this one that I'm going to fill up with the can of cocoa. But these ones are for a different project. I'm not going to take this little skin off. I'm going to drop them into a water farm. So once these germinate, I'll show you more on where these seeds will be put and what's going to be done with them. Okay, so right now I'm filling up the little grow chambers to plant the seeds in. And in a pinch, I have found that your kitchen utensils work just fine with this. You just want to fill these in. I have found, and I've done this the hard way, I guess it's just part of the learning process, is it's best to pre-moisten your soil or your media or anything that you're planting, especially with seeds. Because if you're using dry media, you put the seed into it and then you give it some water, it shrinks down all the way. that is normal, but it can make things a bit more messy. So I find if I pre-wet this and then fill it up and then add the seeds, I'm not going to lose as much to the erosion. So pre-moisten your soil and media. Normal thing to do. I've tried it the hard way. Go, oh, let me just try to be cleaner. It's easier if I fill this up and then add this and then add water. It might be cleaner, but then you have to go, oh crap, now I have to fill it up with more soil or media. Then you fill it back up and then you water it again, and you do that process like 3 times. And I came to the conclusion of what the heck am I doing? So pre-moisten that. A little bit of tip, it's much easier when you're using indoors to pre-moisten it. If you're doing it outdoors, I don't always do it and it works just fine, but it makes it much easier. So that is one of my quick tips. So I'm going to fill this up and then we will start planting. Now once I pick what seeds I'm going to be planting, I will typically make the little marker so I know what lettuce I've planted, since there's quite a few different kinds. And then I typically use some kind of a grow journal. Grow journals can be as simple or as technical as you want it to. Today I just wrote down the dates. I started a few different ones, the Arrow Garden, the plugs, and then obviously this tray. And this is the Root Maker 32 cell propagation tray. So I wrote down what exactly I was starting in what kind of container or different media that's out there. Further on, I will start to say, you know, when these germinated. Some of these seeds are a little bit older. Some of them have been opened. Some of them might not germinate as much. So I can keep track of it. I also can keep track and write down what kinds of nutrients I'm using, what strengths I have mixed them up to. This can, obviously it's a good learning process, but you can start to track what you've grown and what techniques that you've done. This is also excellent for outside as well when you're rotating your crops. I will typically sketch out a map of my garden. I can put what I'm planting where, and I can kind of track of how much I'm watering, how much I'm adding nutrients or compost tea, what needs to be rotated, because some plants shouldn't be planted in the same spot year after year. Rotation is a good thing, and I have to write that down to remember it. There are online programs that you can use as well to track it. I am a journal person, so again, you can write down as little or as much information as you want, but this is a great learning tool, especially when I am doing lots of different projects. I gotta know what I have been doing. So that's a quick tip. Garden journal, must for me. So so that is a must for me. So now that I have put out the little tags, I am actually going to enter them or put them in this tray that I have right here, and I will start planting in that one. So once all the seeds are in there, I'll be done. But this one, because it's lettuce, they're little tiny seeds. I will probably overplant this and thin the seeds at a later date. Especially with some of them being older, I'm not sure what the germination rate is going to be. So I'm going to stick these guys in here, and then I will start planting. Okay, now that these are all filled up with the cocoa and labeled for what seeds are going to go in there, I will typically go through and I will just take, I'm using an indelible marker, what I use to fill out the little seed markers, and I will go through and just punch a little hole in all of them. This is where I'm going to drop my little seeds into. And then once the seeds are done, I will go back through, fill them up a little bit, and that will be done for planting right now. So let me finish these ones, drop the seeds in there, and then this will be added into the grow tent with the T5 lighting. So for planting purposes, this 32 cell tray, and this is the propagation tray from Root Maker, was set into this container. Now that this has been planted, this will be taken out, and it was put in this container mainly because for cleanliness issues and for filling up. But now it's complete. The seeds are planted. This will be set onto this tray, and then this will go into the T5 lighting just like this. So it will germinate in this, and I can water, and it can leak through. It's just fine if water goes down here because it's sitting in another tray in the T5 lighting. So once this is all done, I'll show you the complete setup, but this is what it's going to look like in the tent. Okay, so here you have the finished product with the cocoa plugs as well as the root maker tray. And I have them under the T5s, and if you can see, I lowered the T5 lighting to be pretty close to the soil or to the media. And the nice thing with the T5 lighting is you can get it pretty close without burning your leaves, and it's fine for seedlings. This is a great way to start seeds with it. And then also what I'm going to add into this tent today is a thermometer that will also tell me the humidity in it, and a 6-inch clip fan for a little bit more aeration. Now these are 3 ways that I'm starting seeds, with the Aero Garden, the cocoa plugs, and then this root maker 32 cell tray. There are many other ways to start seeds. This has been an easy way for me with apartment gardening. Some people like to do the paper towel method. If you're growing certain crops like carrots, turnips, some of the other ones with the big taproot, those need to be planted outside directly into the soil. So not everything can be grown indoors, unless you're doing carrots indoors, or if you're doing turnips inside. If they're eventually going to be moved outside, they should always just be grown outside. So hopefully you learned a little bit of information, and I will check back next week to see if we have germination on any of these guys. So here's the start of an urban garden with lots of lettuce and leafy green plants in 3 different growing ways, and we will watch these peppers. They'll take a little bit longer to germinate than the lettuce seeds, and those peppers will eventually be transplanted into a water farm, and those will be grown with Hydroton expanded clay pebbles. And those will be in a different grow tent with an OG light and the water farms, and I will have a bigger garden set up, a 4x4 garden, and as opposed to this guy, which is about a 2x4. So it'll be about twice the space. So tune in next week as I build a new garden. But this is Emily from A Girl in a Garden on dfcradio.com.
Didn't even know I wasted it all just to watch you go. I kept everything inside, and even though I tried, it all fell apart. What it meant to be will eventually be a memory of
a time. DFCRadio.com.
Welcome back to A Girl in a Garden on dfcradio.com. This is your host, Emily. And I wanted to bring up a Facebook question of the week. And I highly recommend, if you have any garden questions, please head on over to facebook.com/agirlinagarden. Ask your questions, or you can send them directly to me at agirlinagarden@gmail.com. So here's a question I got from a fellow listener, fellow gardener, and they are looking, what is a good organic weed killer, not Roundup? So they are looking for an organic burn down herbicide that is non-selective, and there's a few different ones on the market, or you can make your own. There's a few different ways to tackle this. Some of our feedback is good old fashions, hands and knees, pull, dig, and push them out. Safer Grow Weed Zap is a non-selective herbicide for organic gardening. Blowtorch is always an option. Burn that stuff. Baking soda works. Boiling water works on cracks on the walkway. Another horticultural grade vinegar works. Burnout, I believe it's called. Vinegar, you can make a homemade vinegar solution. Or another product on the market is Avenger. So those are some of your options you have for weed killers that's not a nasty poisonous chemical called Roundup. And remember, if you have kids and children are the same thing. If you have children, pets, people that are around your garden, honeybees, anything like that, you need to really be careful on what you're spraying in your garden and the time that you're using it. So lots of options are out there besides Roundup. Spring is here, and that means the weeds are starting to grow. So next week, I'll let you know what the Facebook question of the week was and give you some of the options of what you can do to treat in your garden. So until next time, this is Emily on A Girl in a Garden on dfcradio.com.
We're listening to DFCRadio.com.